So I recently wrote a Twitter thread on 20 books that have changed my life, and I wanted to create that into a video as well. Here are 20 books that have changed my life. Number one, this was 2009, and this book is called Rework. It was gifted to me in 2009 by my co-founder back then, and it remains one of my most gifted books of all times. I have gifted that book more than I've gifted any other book. It's by Jason Fried and DHH, and it's a wonderful, wonderful book that will completely change the way that you look at work. The other one, and this was 2016, I was going through a really hard time. I was struggling to make sense of what was happening to me, and the book that I read at that point of time was Better Under Pressure, and it just beautifully helped me. And one of the quotes that I read from this book is, CEOs must master 3 essential attributes: realistic optimism, love that, subservience to purpose, and finding order in chaos. Wow. Another book that I read was Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance by Angela Duckworth. Wonderful book. A great quote from there is, passion for your work is a little bit of discovery, followed by a lot of development, and then a lifetime of deepening. Powerful. Next, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. One of the best books ever written, completely demystifies what entrepreneurship is all about. A great quote from there is, life is struggle. I believe that within that quote lies the most important lesson in entrepreneurship. Embrace the struggle. Next, Sapiens by Yuel, Harari. Great book, such a wonderful peek into our history, how the world works. A great quote from that is, money is the most universal and most efficient system of natural mutual trust ever devised. Next, Tool of the Titans by Tim Ferriss. It's a great compilation of how the best minds in the world work or think. A great quote from there, if you let your learning lead to knowledge, you become a fool. But if you let your learning lead to action, you become wealthy. Smart. A great book, The $1 Trillion Coach. Wonderful. It's about Bill Campbell, who was a great coach to a lot of very successful Silicon Valley startups. And a wonderful quote from there is, not what happened and who's to blame, but what are we going to do about it? That's the question. Next, A Guide to the Good Life. This is a wonderful introduction to Stoicism, which is a great philosophy, something that I follow personally. A wonderful quote from there is, the easiest way for us to gain happiness is to learn how to want the things we already have. Wow. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. Wonderful book. If I ever write a book, it will be very much similar to the writing style. Who you are is defined by what you're willing to struggle for. Wow. Radical Candor by Kim Scott. Kim Scott. It's a great book, especially for managers, leaders, on how to manage your team. A wonderful quote from there is, the way you ask for criticism and react when you get it goes a long way towards building trust or destroying it. And we all know what that means. Another great book is How Will You Measure Your Life? It remains a classic for several reasons. A great quote from there is, it's easier to hold your principles 100% of the time than to do it 98% of the time. That's a very powerful quote. Think about that. Next book, Atomic Habits by James Clare. One of the best books in the recent past that I've read. You should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results. Wow, that is such a brilliant quote. Love it. Next, Man's Search for Meaning. Beautiful book, somewhat depressing, but eventually it's just about uplifting and hope. A great quote from there is, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Next book is Skin in the Game by Talib. Very deep, brilliant book. What matters isn't what a person has or doesn't have, it is what he or she is afraid of losing. Another great book is The Direct Truth by Kapil Gupta. Why do I get angry when I'm insulted? It's because you entertain the verity of the insult. It's because you entertain the verity of the insult. You entertain the possibility of that insult to be true. The High Growth Handbook, great book for startups, wonderful, highly recommended. In fact, the general model of successful tech companies, contrary to myth, is that they become distribution-centric rather than product-centric. That's a great quote from the book. And one autobiography that I would strongly recommend amongst all the ones that I've read is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. It is the founder of Nike, Phil Knight. And a wonderful quote from there is, the single easiest way to find out how you feel about someone, say goodbye. The easiest way to find out how you feel about someone is to say goodbye. A wonderful book, one of my personal favorites, is The Love Sonnets of Ghalib. Ghalib is such a terrific poet, and I've learned so much from that book, so that's one of my favorite ones as well. Chariots of the God. This is a book about, I wouldn't even give it to you, but it's a fantastic book if you love aliens and just so much. And a great quote from there is, the positive thing about the skeptic is that he considers everything possible. And that's such a wonderful, deep quote. The only fiction book that I've ever read, and people found that to be very pretentious, but it's a fact, so I can't run away from that, is The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand. And Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand. I hope I got it right. The Fountainhead, classic. A great quote from there is, to say I love you, one must first know how to say I. Think about that. The link to buy any of these 20 books is in the comment section below. I hope you like these 20. Share your recommendations that I can pick up. Thanks. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that whenever we put up a new video, you're aware of it.